Have you ever had the feeling that you're doing everything right with money, and yet you never get anywhere? You work hard, you strive, you earn a little more each year, you try to get organized, but in the end, it seems like you're always starting from scratch, as if money simply doesn't obey, as if there's something wrong with you. Have you ever experienced this? Perhaps you've heard this your whole life, that you weren't born good with money, that you don't have a knack for finances, that you've always been disorganized. And over time, this idea becomes a silent truth, almost a label. You start to believe that the problem is a lack of discipline, intelligence, or willpower. But what if I told you that this isn't your fault? What if what's hindering your wealth building isn't a personal flaw, but a programming you received without realizing it? Think about it. Most people follow the exact same script. They study, get a job, trade time for money, improve their salary, raise their standard of living, and yet still feel like there's never really enough money left over. You work more, earn more, but the feeling of financial hardship persists. This isn't a coincidence. This is a pattern. And patterns don't appear out of nowhere. They are taught, reinforced, and normalized over time. The system was never designed to teach you how to accumulate wealth. It taught you how to survive, how to pay bills, how to consume quick rewards, how to normalize long-term installments, manageable debts, and choices that ease the present but sacrifice the future. And while you try to solve this by blaming yourself, the machine keeps turning. What you're about to discover may surprise you because it completely changes how you view your financial decisions up to this point. You don't handle money poorly because you're weak. You handle it that way because you've been conditioned to play a specific game, a game where almost no one builds a financial margin, where saving seems pointless, and where talking about the long-term sounds too distant. Stick with me until the end, because understanding this is the first step to breaking free from this invisible cycle that keeps so many people stuck in the same place for years. Perhaps, as you listen to me, some situations are coming to mind. That feeling of working hard and seeing no progress. That silent comparison with those who seem to advance faster. That nagging doubt of always running but never arriving. This isn't a lack of effort. It's a lack of awareness about the game you're playing. And before you think this is just another generic explanation, let me tell you something important. There's a specific point where this game changes completely. A point that separates those who spend their time putting out fires from those who start building for real. It's like a door that few see, and even fewer cross. And it's precisely about this door that we need to talk about now. And perhaps, as you connect these dots, something inside you is already saying, so it wasn't just me. That feeling of relief mixed with discomfort is common when you realize you've spent years trying to win a game whose rules were never explained. Because when the problem seems personal, guilt weighs heavily. But when you understand that there's a logic behind it all, guilt begins to give way to awareness, and awareness changes decisions. If this topic resonates with you, leave a comment below. Tell us what has resonated with you the most so far, or at what point you realized you were trapped in this invisible cycle. This isn't just any comment. When you write, you organize your own thoughts, and at the same time, you help other people who are going through the exact same thing to feel less alone. This exchange is what transforms this space into something alive, not just another video playing on the screen. And if at any point you thought, I needed to hear that, it's really worth liking the video. This simple gesture tells the algorithm that this type of content matters, that this conversation needs to reach more people who still blame themselves without understanding why. Your participation here is what makes this channel grow and reach people who are exactly at that point of silent confusion that you may have already experienced. Now, if you feel you want to continue delving deeper into this type of reflection, subscribing to the channel is almost a silent agreement between us. It's a sign that you want to learn too. See money more clearly, without magic formulas, without empty promises, but with awareness and strategy. Here, each video is designed to connect these pieces little by little, because changing your relationship with money doesn't happen overnight. It happens when you start to see the game as it really is. And as you get involved, comment, participate, and follow along, this conversation gets deeper, because there's a point where understanding programming is no longer enough. There's an invisible limit, a line that separates those who merely survive from those who begin to build something solid. It's as if, after this initial understanding, an inevitable question arises. Where exactly is this door? And why do so few people get near it? Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject because understanding, as this programming completely changes how you view your own decisions. None of this starts when you're an adult, earn your first salary, or take out your first loan. It starts much earlier, silently, almost invisibly. From an early age, most people learn a simple, repetitive logic. Work hard, receive a fixed amount for your time, spend to relieve fatigue, and repeat it all the following month. This is reinforced as normal, responsible, even admirable. Nobody calls it a mistake. Nobody questions it. And that's precisely where the hidden truth lies. You weren't taught to think in terms of construction. You were trained to think in terms of flow. Money comes in, money goes out. The focus was never on creating space, margin, or breathing room. The focus was always on keeping the gears turning. When your salary increases, your mind automatically seeks a new standard of comfort. A better car, a bigger house, small luxuries that seem like well-deserved rewards. And they are. But the price of this reward is rarely clearly shown. It comes disguised as easy installments, promises of it fits in your budget, and the deceptive feeling of control. This is how financial programming takes hold, not as a rational choice made at the desk with pen and paper, but as automatic habits. You don't wake up and consciously decide to go into debt for years. You just follow what everyone else does. You don't deeply analyze each decision. You react. You react to desire, to the fear of falling behind, to silent comparison, to social pressure. Little by little, important decisions cease to seem like decisions. They become routine, and routine doesn't generate warning signs. There is a profound impact in all of this. When every financial gain is immediately converted into consumption, the money never has time to transform into something greater. It doesn't build muscle. It doesn't create protection. It doesn't create options. The person works hard, makes decisions that seem right in the short term, and yet feels that something doesn't add up. This feeling of frustration doesn't come from a lack of effort. It comes from the game being played behind the scenes, without almost anyone noticing. And the more this pattern repeats itself, the more it shapes your mindset. Saving starts to seem pointless. Planning sounds distant. Thinking long-term seems like a privilege for the few. This is the most dangerous part of the programming. It makes you believe that this is the natural limit of your journey, that there is no other way. That's just how it is. But that's not true. It's just the result of years of conditioning, repeated without question. When you see this clearly, something changes. Not immediately in your bank balance, but in the way you begin to observe your own decisions. You start to notice patterns, reactions, automatic behaviors. And this perception is the first sign of real transformation, because nobody changes what they can't see. Ultimately, it all begins when you stop asking yourself, how much do I earn? And start asking yourself, how was I taught to use what I earn? That's when the journey stops being about money and starts being about awareness. And when that awareness awakens, an uncomfortable curiosity naturally arises. If this whole system pushes people to the same place, where exactly are those who manage to escape it? Comment below. That makes sense to me. Now, I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because everything we've discussed so far begins to take shape when you see the right image, not as an abstract concept, but as something almost physical. That's where the shark door comes in. This metaphor is not an exaggeration, nor is it just pretty marketing. It represents a real point in the financial journey where the rules change, and where almost everyone falls by the wayside without even realizing that this point exists. Before that door, the logic is cruel and silent. You strive harder, work longer hours, take on more responsibilities, try to optimize every detail of the budget, and progress is minimal. It seems that any progress evaporates. Money comes in, solves emergencies, pays installments, maintains the standard of living, and disappears. The psychological impact of this is heavy. The feeling arises of always playing catch-up, always behind, always one step short. And the most dangerous thing, it starts to seem normal, as if this were the natural limit of adult life. The shark gate is exactly where this normality ends. It separates those who live reacting to what happens from those who gradually begin to create real choices. On the outside, money is always a scarce resource that demands constant effort. On the inside, it still requires discipline, but it begins to gain time direction, and purpose. Not because someone suddenly became brilliant, but because they created a margin. They created space between what they earn and what they consume. And space is power, even if almost no one says it out loud. What makes this door invisible to most is that it doesn't resemble success. It has no glamour. It doesn't come with immediate status. On the contrary, it often demands decisions that seem like regression to outsiders. Less consumption, more patience. Less reward now, more silent building. It's the conscious delay of gratification, something that goes completely against the programming we carry from an early age. And that's why few cross it. There's a hidden truth here that almost no one likes to face. The shark door doesn't open with high income. Many people earn well and never get close to it. It also doesn't open with luck, nor with miraculous investments. It opens when a person learns to endure discomfort for a longer time than average. When they trade immediate applause for future stability. When they understand that discipline is not punishment, it's strategy. From this point on, something begins to change behind the scenes. Money ceases to be merely a solution to problems and becomes a tool. It starts to work, even if timidly at first. Progress is still slow, but now it is cumulative. Each decision begins to have a real impact on the journey, not just in the following month, but in the years to come. This is where a different identity emerges. Not better, not superior, but conscious. The identity of someone who understands that there is a bigger game happening. And perhaps the most uncomfortable thing of all is realizing that this door has always been there. Not hidden by conspiracy, but camouflaged by routine, noise, and constant distraction. Most people never stop long enough to see it. Others even see it, but retreat when they understand the emotional cost of crossing it. Because crossing that door requires swimming against the current, while the sharks, consumption, comparison, haste, continue circling around. When you start to visualize that door, the question changes. It's no longer, why am I not moving forward? But what is still preventing me from reaching it? And this question opens up space for revelations that go far beyond numbers. They touch on mindset, identity, and daily choices. That seems small, but define everything. Write it in the comments. I see the door. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because understanding why so many people never get close to the shark door requires honesty with oneself. It's not comfortable, but it's liberating. The truth is that most people don't stay outside because of a big, dramatic mistake. One of those that changes everything at once. They stay because of something much more subtle. The sum of small choices considered. Normal, responsible, even intelligent, but which, together, build a silent prison. Think about the standards that have become the norm. The car is always a little more expensive than would be prudent, justified by the argument that, I deserve comfort. The lifestyle that grows at the same rate as the salary, as if each increase needed to be immediately visible. The installments that seem harmless when viewed in isolation, but which, behind the scenes, hijack the future month after month. None of this sounds wrong when it happens. On the contrary, it sounds like progress. And that's precisely where the trap lies. There is a profound psychological impact in this sequence. Every emotional decision is validated by the short term. Relief comes quickly, pleasure too. But the cost is diluted, spread over time, almost invisible. When the person realizes it, the margin was never created. The reserve never existed. And without a reserve, there is no choice. Money continues to dictate, defining. The pace, imposing limits. The feeling is of always being too busy to stop and reflect, always too committed to change. Another common pattern is the absence of room for the unexpected. Without financial breathing room, any unforeseen event becomes a crisis. Any opportunity becomes a risk. The mindset becomes defensive, reactive, not because the person is incapable of planning, but because they have been trained to live on the edge. This shapes decisions, affects relationships, and even influences how one perceives their own worth. Gradually, the journey ceases to be about growth and becomes about elegant survival. The most curious thing is that nobody wakes up thinking, I'm going to sabotage my future today. The choices seem too small to matter. An upgrade here, a concession there, an exception that becomes a habit. And when someone points this out, the reaction is almost always defensive. After all, admitting this pattern requires facing a hidden truth. Perhaps it wasn't a lack of income, nor bad luck, nor context. Perhaps it was unconscious repetition. This recognition isn't meant to generate guilt. It's meant to generate clarity. Because when you understand that it wasn't an isolated mistake, but a system of automatic decisions, something changes. The urgency ceases to be desperation and becomes lucidity. You begin to see that crossing the shark gate doesn't depend on a great heroic leap, but on interrupting small cycles that feed off each other. And when this awareness emerges, an inevitable, almost uncomfortable question arises. What normal choices in your routine are currently keeping you exactly where you are? This question doesn't demand an immediate answer, but it opens the door to a transformation that happens away from the spotlight, in the details, behind the scenes of real life. That's where your mindset truly begins to shift, preparing the ground for decisions different from those you've always made. Comment below. I'm on this journey. 2. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because after seeing the door and recognizing the patterns that kept you outside, something rare emerges. Practical hope. Not that empty hope of quick promises, but a silent feeling of control beginning to return. Reprogramming isn't about turning the tables all at once. It's not about cutting everything off. It's not about living in permanent sacrifice. It's something much simpler, and precisely for that reason, more powerful. It's about changing the focus, stopping optimizing immediate pleasure, and starting to optimize margin. Margin is the space that almost no one protects. It's the gap between what you earn and what you spend. It's the breath that allows you to breathe before reacting. While most people organize their lives to extract maximum comfort from money now, those who begin to approach the shark's door do the opposite. They extract time, options, and peace of mind from money. This doesn't show up in photos. It doesn't generate external validation, but it completely changes the behind-the-scenes aspects of the journey. The first real step doesn't require genius. It requires intention. It's about looking at common decisions with a different filter, not just asking, can I afford it? But, does this protect or destroy my profit margin? This change in mindset seems small, but the impact is profound. Because it interrupts autopilot. You stop reacting to desire, to comparison, to haste, and you start choosing based on direction. The transformation begins there, in the invisible. Simplicity ceases to be deprivation and becomes a strategy. Spending less than you could is not a step backward. It's silent construction. Consistency becomes more important than intensity. It's not about making grand moves. It's about repeating the right decisions long enough for the accumulated effect to appear. This is the point where many people give up, because progress doesn't shout, it whispers. But those who persevere begin to feel something new, less anxiety, less urgency, more clarity. Reprogramming also means consciously accepting a delay in reward, not because you don't deserve it, but because you understand the impact of waiting. This delay isn't suffering, it's an emotional investment. It builds mental strength. Every time you choose to preserve margin instead of consuming status, you reinforce a different identity. Gradually, decisions cease to be emotional and become strategic. And when that happens, money starts to obey. The most liberating thing is realizing that none of this requires extremes. It doesn't require isolation, nor a gray life. It requires alignment. It requires knowing what you are building and why. Real reprogramming happens when your decisions start to align with the future you want to live, not just with the relief of the present. It is at this point that the feeling of always being behind begins to disappear. When you protect your margins, something changes in the rhythm of life. The unexpected ceases to be a constant threat. Opportunities begin to be analyzed calmly. The journey gains depth, and, without realizing it, you begin to move towards the door, not running, not forcing, but advancing consciously. And the closer you get, the clearer the difference becomes between living by reacting and living by choosing. Comment below. I'm reprogramming. If you've made it this far, it's because something in this conversation resonated with you on a deeper level. It wasn't just about money. It was about understanding decisions, patterns, and behind-the-scenes aspects that are almost never explained calmly. And when we start to see the game more clearly, it makes a difference to remain surrounded by content that respects this pace, without rushing and without empty promises. Subscribing to the channel is simply a way of saying that you want to continue on this journey, deepening this mindset and building little by little with intention. If this message touched you in any way, leave a comment below. Write it down. This message was for me. This shows that you made it to the end and helps create a sense of community among people who are thinking differently, questioning the obvious, and seeking something more solid. And if, throughout the video, you felt that this conversation truly resonated with you, liking the video is a simple gesture that reinforces this connection and allows this type of content to continue existing here. Now, there's a video over here that perfectly complements this topic and delves even deeper into the logic of silent construction. Click and continue watching it.